Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Okay.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
We'll chant this special invocation mantra, prayer. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So we are having a special class on Gaura Purnima. Today is the third lecture on this series of 6 lectures on the significance of Gaura Purnima or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let me ask with a quick recap of what we did, because we may delve into newer subjects, but it's important to know what we discussed. Let me see how many of you remember what we discussed yesterday. What is a demon? You heard yesterday? Okay. Good. Not exactly, but you are there. Senses, control, everything is there, but not the exact thing. Oh, you have to use the mic. Whose senses act?
Gratification, not for the devotion of the Lord.
Asusu ramate iti asura. A person who is indulging in looking for pleasure in his senses. Sense gratification is called asura. Very good. What are the difference between Vedic, Vaishnava and the Gaudiya? Amol. Was it discussed?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Who else? Did you attend Mataji? Yesterday's class? No? Okay. Vedic Vaishnavas are different. Vedic is the broader umbrella where Saivites, Saktas, Vaishnavas, everybody comes. So they follow
Vishnu as does Chaitanya.
Yes. Okay. They follow Bhagavad Gita. सोचो ना क्या बोल रहे हो? Vaishnavas
They also follow Bhagavad Gita.
and
Bhagavatam.
okay. So very good. Why they follow Bhagavatam?
Many glories of Lord Supreme Lord is described in that.
Lord. The reason being they are worshippers of Vishnu, and the Paribhasa Sutra of Bhagavatam is Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Loke Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete Chamsa Kalapam. So there may be so many different incarnations who are plenary portions of the Lord, but Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Since Bhagavatam is talking about, Paribhasa Sutra is the emperor verse, which is talking about Krishna or Vishnu, that's why the Vaishnavas follow Bhagavatam, irrespective of whichever tradition they come in. Which are the 4 traditions of Vaishnavas? The broad classification of the 4 Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas divisions. Mm-hmm. 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 Gaudiya is what? Starts with whom? Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, Madhvacharya. Okay, what is Gaudiya? Gaudadesh? Okay. Huh? Western Bengal, ठीक है. What? Followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Chaitanya Charitamrita. In addition to Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Okay. What is the connection between Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and CC? Please use the mic. Bhagavad Gita is basic.
Yeah, that actually explains about. Bhagavad Gita is a basic. Bhagavatam shows the activities of Lord Krishna, and
Chaitanya Charitamrita.
It actually.
Mind of Krishna. Yes, very good. So where Bhagavad Gita ends, Bhagavatam begins. And where Bhagavatam ends, Chaitanya Charitamrita begins. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered to the postgraduate study. Okay. Which temple has the original manuscript of Chaitanya Charitamrita? Lohi Bazaar is a bazaar, not a temple. Radha Nand Kumar. Name the person whose example was given for charity from Mahabharata, which I struggled to find. Mudgala. Okay. Okay, somebody is putting in the chat. Who is that? Vishnu. Okay. Mudgala. Okay. So, do you remember Mudgala? Okay. Huh? Jagannath Tirtha Prabhu. क्या है मुद्गला? हाँ? Forgot. कल गया, रात गई, बात गई. Okay.
Yes,
He used to eat once. Yeah. So monthly twice. But then why that story was given? Because achieving God realization is not easy. Self-realization is not an easy thing. That's why we don't value when it is given so easily. Next is, name the person. Okay, I spoke about this. Can you give the breakdown of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life? We discussed this also.
Adi, Madhya.
How many years he lived for?
Right from 14.
8.
Mataji is good. 48. Very nice. Then you have heard attentively. Good.
He took sannyas at 24 years of
Very
age.
good. Yes. So if you have to remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life breakdown, just remember this number 24, 6, 6, 12.
Yeah, 6 years he
Traveled
to
in
like
South America,
South
South
India,
South India.
and
Yeah.
and for like rest of the years
Spent in Puri. But out of that, the first 6 years, he had some association with his intimate associates. But the last 12 years, he was in some ecstasy, fully, in madness. Which is the rope to be used to come out of this deep, dark well of samsara? What is the rope?
the mercy of the spiritual master.
No, not exactly. And mercy of the spiritual master is an important thing, no doubt. But what is that? Yes, devotional service. That interesting verse that we had yesterday. Manasija phanijuste, labdha patosmi dushte, timira gahana rupe, hanta samsara kupe, ajita nikhila raksha, hetu muddhara daksha, upanaya mama haste, bhakti rajum namaste. Very beautiful words by Rupa Goswami. Manasija phanijuste, labdha patosmi dushte. This is a very fallen state in this deep, dark, filthy well of samsara, in which the viper of sex desire dwells. And he's praying, Ajita Nikhila Raksha. The person who's sending that, throwing that rope, I told yesterday about the spiritual master, but here Rupa Goswami says, Ajita Nikhila Raksha Hetu Muddhara Daksha. The expert person who's throwing that rope is none other than the Lord himself, who's Ajita, who's who's never defeated, he's invincible. He's throwing that rope. So who else? I mean, he has never been defeated. That Lord is putting that rope inside. I should just catch on to that. He's telling somehow or other, oh Lord, give me this blessing or the strength so that I hold on, I catch on to that rope very tightly. So the rope is the rope of devotional service. The last question is, why everyone is morose in this material world? Very good. There is a want, because they always want something. That is why they are morose. And in that purport, Prabhupada says, they're trying to squeeze whatever material happiness is available so that they can be happy, but they get frustrated. These are some of the things we discussed in the last class. So we spoke about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, highest to the lowest, his impact, social, political, theological, spiritual. The theological impact is Achintya Bhedaved. Spiritual impact is giving this prema, the highest ecstasy that one can experience in the stage of spiritual evolution. He demonstrated by his own life, it was documented by his disciples, and it was distributed later by his following disciples. Asura we spoke about, Gaudiya Vaishnava we spoke about. This is the connection between Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the place Radhananda Kumar. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's breakdown of his life. First 24 years, household life, then sannyas life. But 24 to 48, he traveled for 6 years in South India. And then 30 to 48, he spent in Jagannath Puri. 30 to 36, association with devotees. 36 to 48, transcendental madness. This is the breakdown of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the wonderful literature which is available to us. We spoke about this verse yesterday, wonderful verse. How the Lord's glories are so unlimited and how we can't even fathom this. You remember? Very good. And there is actually one thing which I didn't mention, which I forgot, which I was remembering yesterday after the class. The paper on which she is writing is actually the earth. Asitagiri samam shyat kajjalam sindhu patre surataruvaru sakha lekhani patram urvi. That patram urvi is actually the mother earth. Asitagiri samam shyat kajjalam sindhu patre. Ink pot is the ocean. Ink is mountain. Lekhani is Surataruvara, the branch from the wish-fulfilling tree from the heaven. Likhati yad grahitva Sarada. Sarada is Saraswati. Sarvakalam. She is writing for all the time. Tadapi tava gunanamisha param nayati. But still she can't fathom. She can't complete all the qualities of the Lord. We also saw about Ganesha trying to do this, which is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we spoke about the wonderful material life that we are stuck in, and how people around us can't help us from this deep, dark well. I have seen one child who had fallen down into a well which was not so deep, neither it was dark, but how difficult it was to rescue him from that. It's not easy at all, because there is nothing that you can hold on to and can come out of it. So that's why the rope is very important, and how we should be so careful about the rope of devotional service which is given to us by the Lord himself. This verse we saw, and this verse also we saw, where the word daya is used 12 times. And in this, we saw how everyone is morose and they are trying to struggle to minimize the misery by squeezing pleasure, and they become unsuccessful. They seek Lord's favor, which is difficult to obtain. But he becomes Krishna conscious by Lord's grace, then he becomes free, he gets freedom from misery and mind gets cleansed, enlightened by loving service. Okay, so this is all we did yesterday. Now what are we going to do today? As I mentioned, Chaitanya Charitamrita is a very, very special book, very special. So it's so special that no matter how many times you read, you will find newer and newer realizations. So for someone to be able to speak on Chaitanya Charitamrita in just 4 or 5 classes is also very insufficient. So what is the solution? Solution is you yourself have to go and read. If from this class you get inspiration to know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and want to see how beautifully, how wonderfully these verses are composed by the great poet Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the great Vaishnava, you have to go and read yourself. There is a verse which comes in Bhagavatam which says, Yatha Shrutam Yatha Matihi. When Suta Goswami begins to answer the questions asked by the sages of Naimisharanya, he's saying, I can only explain what I have heard and what I have understood, what I have realized and how much of intelligence I have. Same holds true here. I mean, I can only say what I have understood, what I have realized, and what my intelligence is. Yatha Shrutam Yatha Mati. Very important actually when we are trying to prepare our consciousness for Gaura Purnima, which is a festival, and festival means, there will be celebration. But the real festival that happens for the devotees is the festival of hearing. The festival doesn't lie in bringing some items and offering it to the Lord in an elaborate manner or doing some very pompous ceremony. That's not what it is. The real festival is when we get a chance to hear about the glories of the Lord. As it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam Tadeva saswan manaso mahotsavam Tadeva sokarnavasoshanam nrinam Yad uttama shloka yashonugiyate Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam. Actually, the pastimes of the Lord are always new, fresh. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam, and very tasteful, very, very. These pastimes of the Lord can, Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam. It is new, it is fresh, it is tasty. Tadeva ramyam ruchiram navam navam manaso mahotsavam, and it is a big festival for our mind. Why? Because Tadeva sokar navashoshanam nirnam. Of all the people's lamentation, the ocean of lamentation can be dried up by just listening to these pastimes of the Lord. So it is very important that we take advantage of this opportunity which is coming in our way of listening to these wonderful pastimes of the Lord. I want to start with a prayer, not with a prayer, with a verse which Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says of people who are coming together to hear Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So wonderful description this is. If you see, who are you? Like you have come here to hear. What is your position? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is actually explaining. If nothing else, if we just pay attention, if we are very sincere, then at least we will attract the mercy of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, a great exalted Vaishnava who has written this wonderful masterpiece called Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here he is writing Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita at the beginning. Krishnotta Kirtana Gana Nartana Kala Patho Jani Bhrajita. Okay, we can sing Krishnotta Kirtana Gana Nartana Kala Patho Jani Bhrajita. Okay. Sadbhakta Bali Hamsa Chakra Madhupashrini Biharaspadaam. Karnanandi Kala Dhvanir Bhatu Me Jivva Maru Prangane.
Karnanandi कलाध्वनिर्वहतु मे जिह्वमरुप्राङ्ने
Shri Chaitanya Dayanidhe Tava Lasal Lila Sudha Swardhuni.
श्री चैतन्य दयानिधे तव लसल लीला शुद्ध स्वर्धुनि.
So what is he trying to say here? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is telling Shri Chaitanya Dayanidhe. First he is comparing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the ocean of mercy. Shri Chaitanya Dayanidhe. Shri Chaitanya Dayanidhe Tava Lasal Leela Sudha Swardhuni. Tava Lasal, the pastimes of the Lord, Leela, are shining. Tava Lasal Leela Sudha Swardhuni. Sudha is nectar, Swardhuni is Ganges. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an ocean of compassion, and his shining pastimes are like nectar of Ganges. Swardhuni is Ganges. Tava Lasal Leela Sudha Swardhuni. So, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an ocean of compassion, if there is a stream which is coming out of this ocean, that is like a Swardhuni, Sudha Swardhuni, a nectar like Ganges. Tava Lasal Leela Sudha Swardhuni. What else he is mentioning? Krishnota Kirtana Gana Nartana Kala Patho Jani Bhrajita. When the devotees come together and they chant and they glorify and they hear Gana Nartana, when they speak and Nartana, they dance and they chant these glories of the pastimes of the Lord, then that becomes a lotus. The lotus comes when we come together and chant. Okay, of course, the nectar of Swardhuni is coming out of Dayanidhe, but in that Swardhuni, in that Ganges, there is a blossoming of lotus which is happening. Patho Jani Bhrajita. Pathojani is a lotus which is blooming, and that Pathojani, the blooming of lotus, is when the devotees come together and they chant and they sing and they dance and they participate in these activities of the Lord. That is called Patho Jani Bhrajita. So what happens if the devotees are coming and chanting? So what is happening? Who is getting attracted to this lotus? Sad Bhakta Bali Hamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Biharaspodam. Hamsa is swans. Chakra, another kind of birds. Shreni, these are all swarms. These are all different kinds of birds who are getting attracted to this lotus. So Bhakta-vali, like all of you are like the bhaktas or the devotees, like Hamsa, like Chakra, like Shreni, who's getting attracted to that lotus. Sad Bhakta-vali Hamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Biharaspodam. Karna Nandi Kala Dhvanir Bahatu Me Jivva Maru Prangane. And what is happening? Karna Nandi Kala Dhvanir Bahatu Me. Karna Nandi. This, when the Madhupa, there is a bumblebee which is also there. When he is seeing that there is a lotus which has blossomed, it comes and it is making a humming sound. And that humming sound is so pleasing to our ears. So the nectarian pastime of the Lord, when we discuss, the pastimes of the Lord are so pleasing to our ears, not just to our ears. Bhavanti Hrit Karna Rasayana. It is for Hrit also, for our heart also it is so pleasing and so satisfying. So much of relishing. Actually in this material world, if we see, everybody is going through this threefold miseries which is inflicted on us by the three modes of material nature. Whether you are grahastha, whether you are brahmachari, whether you are whatever you are, you have to go through, because we are all here in this material world accepting the material body. It is like, in the morning we make this juice, so whatever you put it into that squeezer, it gets squeezed. Whether you are a brahmachari or grahastha, maybe the grahastha is thinking that brahmachari life is good because he doesn't have any responsibility. Maybe a brahmachari is also thinking grahastha has got so much of independence, so much of this thing. But what we don't see is the common thing that for all of us is that we are all subjected to this threefold miseries. But the only difference is a grahastha devotee or a brahmachari devotee or whoever it is, he is sheltered because he has got this connection with the Supreme Lord. If there is a connection with the Supreme Lord, if we have established this connection with the Supreme Lord, irrespective of the fact that we are being tormented, we are being subjected to this threefold miseries, we will feel sheltered. Karna Nandi Kala Dhvanir Bahatu Me Jivva Maru Prangane. Jivva Maru Prangane. This heart is like a desert, and this Jivva, this tongue is also like a Maru. Maru is desert. Jivva Maru Prangane. But when we chant, when we glorify the Lord with these choicest words, Karnanandi Kaladhvanir. Karnanandi, we get pleasure for our ears, and Kaladhvanir, it is very, very sweet, it is very melodious. Karnanandi kaladhvanir bhatu me jivva maruprangane. So miseries are inevitable. We have to go through that irrespective of whether we are devotee or not. But the important thing is a devotee feels the respite, feels the shelter, feels the hope because he is connected with the Lord. So this is very interesting words. The translation is, O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks and bees. The river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. So this is a wonderful verse which Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. I'm just telling how wonderful this Chaitanya Charitamrita is. If you still don't understand or agree, I want to give you some more example. If you take any chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, any chapter, randomly also, the first verse of that chapter will be written in Sanskrit. And that verse will be talking about the details to be followed in that chapter. Like, for example, Naumi tvam gaura chandram ya kutarka karkasasayam sarbabhaumam sarbabhuma bhakti bhumanamacharat. So this chapter is about Sarbabhaum Bhattacharya. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, before beginning to explain who Sarbabhaum Bhattacharya is and what happened to Sarbabhaum Bhattacharya, he's first praying to Gaura Chandram. Naumi tam Gaura Chandram ya kutarka karkasasayam. Naumi tam Gaura Chandram ya. I'm offering my respectful obeisances to Gaura Chandra, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What did he do? Kutarka karkasayam. Sarbabhaum Bhattacharya, even though he was the priest of Jagannath temple, was Kutarka, was always doing some false arguments. Kutarka karkasasayam, and his heart was hard-hearted. It was like a stone. Kutarka karkasasayam. Sarbabhaumam sarbabhuma. The name of person is Sarbabhauma, Sarbabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarbabhuma, the Lord is considered to be Sarbabhuma. That Lord who is Sarbabhuma, who is the controller of the whole universe, he came in touch with this Sarbabhuma, and what did he do? Bhakti Bhumanam Acharat. He converted this Kutarka Karkasasayam Sarbabhuma Bhattacharya to Bhakti Bhumanam Acharat. He engaged him in his devotional service. It's very poetically written, very, very masterpiece. This is impossible to think that someone can plan so much that, every chapter begins with a verse, and that verse is talking about the whole thing that is going to be explained or elaborated in the chapter which is going to come. So the translation is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Gaurachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who converted the hard-hearted Sarbabhauma Bhattacharya, the reservoir of all bad logic, into a great devotee. Just to give you another example, there is another one which comes where, the description of Vasudev Datta is given, the leper. Very wonderful chapter that is. And the chapter begins with this. Dhanyam tam naumi chaitanyam vasudevam dayadradhi nashtakushtam rupapushtam bhakti tushtam chakaraya. You see how poetically this is written, how beautifully this is composed. Dhanyam tam naumi chaitanyam vasudevam dayadradhi. Dhanyam tam naumi chaitanyam. Dhanyam, all auspicious. I am offering my obeisances to Chaitanyam. Vasudevam dayadradhi. Dayadradhi, being compassionate on that Vasudev leper. What did he do? Nashtakushtam, rupapushtam, bhakti tushtam, chakarayah. Nashtakushtam, his leprosy was abolished, removed. Nashtakushtam, rupapushtam, his body became beautiful. Bhakti tushtam, and satisfied in devotional service. Chakarayah. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being very compassionate towards a Brahmana named Vasudev, cured him of leprosy. He transformed him into a beautiful man, satisfied with devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the glorious Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, just to give us a glimpse of what Chaitanya Charitamrita is and how beautifully Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has composed this wonderful chapter. I also want to tell you something very interesting. If you think you don't know what you should pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on this auspicious day of Gaura Purnima, you have no idea what should I ask, then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has got something for us that we can come and stand in front of the Lord and we pray. And how beautifully this is written, you see. Kumana sumanastvam hi yati yasya padabjayo sumano arpana matrena tam chaitanya prabhum bhaje. Very interesting verse. Kumanaha sumanastvam hi yati yasya padabjayo sumano arpana matrena tam chaitanya prabhum bhaje. Our mind is filthy, is dirty. If we want that kumana to become sumanastvam hi, if we want this mind, kumana, mind which is filled with all kinds of lust, desires, anger, greed, avarice, forget about all those big things. Even to the extent that we see another Vaishnava, there is no genuine happiness. Had that been true, I would relish the association of devotees. But if somebody walks in, "Arey, ye kahan se aa gaya?" and now he's showing, something goes on in our mind, right? Kumana sumanastvam hi. If we want that kumana to become sumanastvam, becomes completely cleansed, if I want that mind to be completely pure, then what should I do? Yati yasya padabjayoho, pada abjayoho. Abjayoho, the lotus feet of the Lord, I should come. Sumana arpana matrena. Sumana, the word sumana has two meanings. Sumana is also a flower. Sumana also is the mind which is free from all contamination. How poetically he is writing. Kumana sumanastvam hi yati yasya padabjayoho sumano arpana matrena tam chaitanya prabhum bhaje. Let me offer a flower to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So actually this Gaura Purnima is a day that we should think, we should introspect, and we should look in our life how I can transform, how this is another opportunity given to me that I can bring that change in my life. It is like a second chance, like Ajamil who got. Like that, it is a second chance. Okay, I have lived life, even though I have come in touch with a pure devotee, I am engaged in devotional service, still there are anarthas. But okay, let me come and stand before the Lord who is so merciful and just offer this flower out of real humility, out of genuine compassion, understanding my position is so fallen. But if I do that, here is a hope that I can be engaged in devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, because simply by offering a flower at his lotus feet, even the most ardent materialist becomes a devotee. Now, the time that we have, because Chaitanya Charitamrita, I have not even come what I want to talk about, but I want to talk about one simple aspect from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that one simple aspect of Chaitanya Charitamrita, if we understand and if we can relate to, our life will be hugely successful in spiritual life, in spiritual progress. And I will talk about that in a minute. Okay, tell me one thing. What is the uniqueness of Chaitanya Charitamrita? What do you see in Chaitanya? We have seen Bhagavad Gita, we have seen Bhagavatam, which is also the glorification of the Lord and his devotees. But what is it that is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita which stands out? Huh? Love of Godhead, okay. Glorification of devotees, okay. Chaitanya Charitamrita, biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is special? Vaishnava relationship. Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? How the devotee should be devotional to the Lord, okay?
It just says how to perfect the devotional service. Like
how to perfect devotional service, okay? What else? Practical instructions and examples. Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Relishing means
Relishing.
glorifying our devotional service.
Glorifying devotional
And
service. No, Panduranga. I think
Pure activities of liberated souls.
pure activities of liberated souls, okay? Hari? Intimate
With his devotees,
and it's like Lord actually realizing himself.
Mm.
Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to realize himself how his devotees feel. So it's all
Okay.
really neat.
Okay, got it. Anybody online wants to try? Think Is it audible online?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Mataji, you want to try? What is the uniqueness of CC?
So it is how to lead our lives, Prabhu.
Okay, all are correct, but one thing which yes.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to serve the devotees, and he also came.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to serve the devotee.
Yes, and he wanted to show that what is the devotional service and what is the importance of the means association of the devotees to develop this spiritual life.
The mind, mood and desires of the Lord is what Vishnu is writing. Okay. So basically, see, this is the whole key crux. If you really closely watch and read all the pastimes, various sweet nectarian pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are described and explained. But to understand what is the underlined message, what is that one thing that you will find which is interspersed in all Adi Lila, Madhya Lila and Antya Lila? What is it that is standing out? Very important. You have to pay very close attention to see this. The thing that is mentioned here in this Chaitanya Charitamrita is very key, important thing. Because, even in devotional life also, after a certain point in time, if you don't know how to be engaged in devotional life, our heart becomes dry. You don't really relish. You have heard this, and how many times you can tell that, no, this is, you can't psych it up. There is some fundamental ingredient. If that is missing in our life, we will not be able to relish devotional life. Why and how why we should take it from Chaitanya Charitamrita? Because you take the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the last 12 years of his life, he is experiencing some ecstasy which is of a different kind. Highest ecstasy. How many of you think you have experienced that kind of ecstasy in your life? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the way he is experiencing. Anybody who has experienced Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy here? None of us, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is able to experience that ecstasy for one reason. And that is what is also demonstrated by all his devotees throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita. That one thing is humility. The key ingredient to experience and relish devotional life is humility. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you see his example throughout this entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, he demonstrates this time and again. Actually, devotional life also can become an intellectual practice if we miss out this humility element in our life. And we will see that in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. I want to show that. But what is the usual tendency of people? We know from Bhagavad Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. We think we are the doer. Because of me this is happening. I am the main person here. And that ahankara, aham bhavana, that feeling that I am the controller, or I am the most talented person, or my opinion has to be respected, is so strong, it takes us away from devotion. We will see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrates this as time and again. But even before going to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and experience, you really want to experience that, you see even in his instructions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions we are going to see in the form of Sikshastakam today in the evening. But Sikshastakam, if you see, the main verse in that is Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. We are able to do Kirtan, but we are only able to do that limitedly. But if you want to do Kirtan Kirtaniya Sadahari, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Ask yourself within. It's not for anyone to say, or it's not that I have accomplished or I have experienced that. We have to ask ourselves within. Do we have that mood of humility? That is what breaks the heart of the Lord. That humility is something which is the bhushana, which is the ornament of a devotee. When that ornament comes, everything else becomes beautiful. But if that ornament is missing, if that humility is not there, everything else is there. I'm very talented. I've got this talent to play music. I've got talent to sing, to speak, to do some cooking, to do so many activities. Humility is lacking, then it's of no use. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrates this, even to the extent Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author himself, demonstrates this in his life. Let's see some example. If you read this Chaitanya Charitamrita, not just once, countless times, this Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is telling that, don't read my book. My book, I have just taken some inspiration from some Vaishnavas and I have written it. Go and read Vrindavan Das's Chaitanya Bhagavat. My book is no match. And look at his position. He's telling, Jagai madhai hoite mui se papishtha, puri se rakita hoite mui se laghishta. Jagai madhai hoite mui se papishta. Actually, I am more fallen than Jagai madhai. Puri se rakita hoite mui se laghishta. Actually, I am worse than the worm in the stool. I mean, there has to be a limit to humility that a person can. It's not artificial. Mind you, there are some people who do this artificially for some time, but deep within, there is huge resentment. Sometimes I see this, when we are doing this kirtan in the morning, right? Kirtan is going on. So, kirtan is meant to be lead and follow. Whatever the lead singer is singing, whatever he's singing, we have to follow that. But there will be somebody who will try to correct that person who has sung at the before. You sang that, what is that? Let's say Narsimha Arti is going on. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye. Okay, somebody has sang Narsimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye. The other person is saying, no, it should not have been done like this. I know how to do it better. Narsimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye, he'll elongate it. Arre, nahi chahiye baba. The person who is singing, you are supposed to follow him. Not start your own this thing. Or there is another person in some corner, he'll be doing like say, what is that song, next line of Narsimha, what is that? Tavakara Kamara Vare, Nakham Adbhuta Shringam. So there, Adbhuta Shringam, he is sitting and he'll not chant in chorus. Following is not there. But when the lead singer is singing, Shringam, he is doing, why do you have to do? Actually, this is all the sign of lack of humility inside us. Because we want to be controller. We want to say the world, how much I know, how much I am more capable. But the Lord is not interested in seeing that, how much I know, how much of talent I have. The Lord is interested in seeing how much of humility I have. Following is not easy. Had that been so easy, had that following been so easy, everybody would have become devotee. This is the real crux. See in the examples in the lives of every single devotee in Chaitanya's pastime, be it Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Every one of them demonstrates this, and we will see this little more. Jagai madhai hoite mui se papishta, puri se rakita hoite mui se lagishta. I am more sinful than Jagai and Madhai, and even lower than the worms in the stool. Actually, Krishnadas Kaviraj, I just gave you a demonstration. Had it been someone who's really dumb fellow and is telling something like this, you will say, yeah, okay, he has got humility, is accepting the fact. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is no, he is an expert, he's a poet, he's writing so wonderful thing, yet he's telling how fallen I am. Yet he's thinking that I'm lower than the worms in the stool. And then if you see how many times he's telling, Ore mudha loka, suna Chaitanya Mangala, Chaitanya Mahima Yate, Janiva Sakala. He's telling, actually Chaitanya Bhagavat initially was titled as Chaitanya Mangala. Ore mudha loka, he's telling, oh foolish people, go and listen to Chaitanya Mangala. Chaitanya Mahima Yate, Janive Sakala. You want to know about Chaitanya's glories? You will know everything by reading Chaitanya Mangala. Not just once. Then he's telling again, Bhagavate Krishna Lila Varnila Veda Vyas, Chaitanya Lilate Vyasa Vrindavana Das. You will say, okay, had there been an author who's writing a book, like a biography, after somebody has written, Maybe at the beginning he will give some acknowledgement that the other person has written so nicely, but now see how nicely I am writing, how nice, how beautiful my presentation is. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in every single page, not every single minute, how multiple times he is telling that Vrindavan Das's Chaitanya Bhagavat is far superior. Bhagavatara Krishna Lila Barnila Vedavyas. You want to know about Bhagavata Krishna Lila? That is being described by Vedavyas. You want to know Chaitanya Lila te Vyas, Vrindavana Das. So he's telling that, you go to Vrindavan Das and read that. Srila Vyasadeva described the pastimes of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vyasa of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Vrindavan Das. So, it is, I want to skip these things because I want to come to the main point. Of course, just to tell you, okay, now these slides are there. I just want to just give you a little glimpse. If you open Chaitanya Charitamrita and you are expecting that, the first thing that you will see is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, it is not the case. First chapter, the Adi Lila, the first chapter is called the invocation. And that invocation goes for 12 chapters. The birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his pastimes, his activities, childhood pastimes are coming in the 13th chapter. So this invocation is a very interesting thing, just good to know that the first chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita has got both the tattva as well as the rasa. Tattva is the philosophical truth and the rasa is the relationships and pastimes. Often people jump into the pastimes and relationships thinking that tattva is very boring, very philosophical, I should not do this. But that is very important and that is very nicely given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Siddhanta boliye chitta na karo alas, iha hoite chitta lagi sudruda biswas. Siddhanta boliye chitta na karo alas. When it comes to tattva, don't become lazy. Understand that, because tattvas are important. If you don't know the tattva, you can never release the rasa. Rasa you can only release to the extent that you know the tattva. Siddhanta boliye chitta na karo alas. Iha hoite chitta lage. You want your chitta, you want your mind to be attracted to Krishna, then you must know the philosophical truths. Siddhanta boliye chitta na karo alas. Iha hoite chitta lage sudruda vishwas. The Biswas, the faith in Krishna, the faith in Krishna's activities, the faith in Krishna's instructions will increase if we understand the philosophical truth. It may appear like little bitter, but bitter is required to produce that hunger inside us. Like in the Bengali preparation, the first thing that is given is Malpua, jalebi, right? What is given? Sukta. Sukta is made up of bitter, like, bitter melon. Karela is there in that. But if you eat that sukta, your hunger, appetite will increase and your appreciation for that sweet which comes in the end will come. Similarly, this tattva is also required. Whether I understand, whether I don't understand what it is, how I have to, you cannot say that, okay, I'll postpone this, it's not meant for me, I will come afterwards. No, it is required. Then, in the first chapter also, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami talks about Mangalacharan. Mangalacharan is auspicious invocation. This Mangalacharan means auspicious invocation. And he says there are 3 kinds of Mangalacharan. Auspicious invocation. Before we start anything big, any big work, we should have Mangalacharan. We should invoke some auspiciousness. And there are 3 kinds of auspiciousness which is mentioned in the beginning, and they are called Vastu Nirdesh, Asirvad and Namaskar, or the objective and goal, and the benedictions and obeisances. If you see how dexterously, how expertly Prabhupada has also introduced this while we have any Bhagavatam class. What do we do before Bhagavatam class? Chant the mantras, but before chanting, what do we do? Jai Radha Madhav. Why Jai Radha Madhav is required? Jai Radha Madhav is, giving us a picture of the objective, the goal. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Beautiful song, the 3-4 lines of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, genius. And we sing that every time. That's the objective. That's where the mind is so distracted, so flickering, so much of contaminations is going on, so many things are going on. Very difficult to bring that mind to a proper mood to hear and receive Krishna Katha. That is why Jai Radha Madhava. That is talking about the objective and the goal. Then we chant the invocation prayers. No. Nashta Prayasho Vadresho before that. Tato Jai Mudirayat. ये उससे पहले वाला वो नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. We are praying our obeisances to all big personalities. Narayanam namaskritya. To Naranarayana Rishi, to Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim, to Saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. That is, after that only the jaya or the victory will come. But first you have to ask for benedictions, for obeisances, for namaskar. And then we also talk about the Falashruti. What will happen if we hear Bhagavatam? Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtike. This nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu. Abhadras in our heart will go if we hear. That's also is done. That is benedictions, the asirvad. Shrinvata swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridayantastho hi avadrani. Hridayantastho hi avadrani bidhunoti surhut satam. So hridayantastho hi avadrani, this avadras, extremely difficult to get rid of them. They'll also go. So that is what is given in the Mangalacharan. And just to give you another little more glimpse of this first chapter, the chapter 1 has got this 14 verses, the first 14 verses, and these 14 verses becomes the premise for the next chapters which are coming. So like verse number 1 to 2 is talking about the general obeisances of Sri Chaitanya, and the chapter 1 also has got verses which is talking about obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Forget about that. The third verse, it is talking about proving Sri Chaitanya's divinity, and chapter 2 is entirely entitled as Sri Chaitanya's divinity. Fourth verse is talking about external reason for the advent of Sri Chaitanya, and chapter 3 actually elaborates on that. Fifth and sixth is talking about internal reasons for the advent of Sri Chaitanya, and chapter 4 is talking about what are the internal reasons for Chaitanya's advent. 7th to 11th verses talks about Nityananda Prabhu, and chapter 5th is completely dedicated about Nityananda Prabhu. 12 to 13 is talking about Advaita Acharya, and chapter 6 is talking about Advaita Acharya. 14th is talking about Panchatattva, and chapter 7 is all about Panchatattva. It's a wonderful composition by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, but look at his humility. How many times he's telling. It's not ordinary to get the mercy of the Lord. You know, there is the expression which Srila Prabhupada uses in his books, mercy potency. Mercy is an energy, mercy potency. If you have to receive the mercy, you see like this, these bulbs are glowing, right? These bulbs are glowing. Bulbs are glowing, why? Because there is electricity which is flowing. Electricity is the energy which is flowing. But can you see electricity? You can't see it. But you can see that these bulbs are glowing. That's how you know that electricity is flowing. Similarly, this mercy energy, if you have to receive it in your life, most important ingredient, the most important thing is humility. Why these devotees are able to experience that ecstasy? How they are able to go that? Because they actually follow this Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. There's a beautiful song which is written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I'll skip this. This Gurudev Kripavindu Diya. That song all of you know, right? At least you would have heard of that. In that, the second paragraph is this. Sakale sammana korite sakati deho natha jatha jatha taboto gaibo harinama sukhe aparadha haiva hata. O Lord and Master, please invest me with the power to honor all living beings properly. Sakale sammana korite sakati deho natha jatha jatha. As required, as appropriate, I should respect everyone. Only then will I sing the holy name in great ecstasy, free of offenses. Tabeto gaivo harinama sukhe aparadha hoive hata. The more we have this feeling of enviousness inside, the more we have this tendency to feel jealous, to feel insecure, to feel unhappy, to feel disturbed in the presence of someone, the more we are far from experiencing the ecstasy by chanting holy names. Sakale sammana korite sakati deho natha jatha jatha tabeto gaivo harinama sukhe aparadha hoive hata. I remember there was one devotee in Bangalore who had given a class on on envy. And after the class was over, it was a Sunday class. Sunday Bhagavatam class is attended by a lot of congregation devotees along with brahmacharis. Everybody attends because after that there will be prasadam, khichdi prasadam. So after the class, this person goes and tells Prabhu, very nice class. Very nice. Today I learned a lot of things about envy. But you know what happened? There were 3 people whom I was thinking they should have been present here so that they could have heard this. But unfortunately, they are missing here. So the devotee told, actually, I didn't speak for anyone, I was talking for myself. So, no, you are humble, you are talking for yourself, but I wanted those 3 people to attend these things. You know, see, what is happening is, in our heart, we have labeled some people, oh, he is like that, so he should attend. He is going through this envy. We don't see the faults in our own heart. We don't see that what is going on in our heart, how much of anarthas we have. Instead of looking at our own anarthas, we are busy looking at, oh, you know, look at that person, how he is doing. Sakale sammana korite sakati. The day when I am able to give respect, amanina manadena, dehonatha, jatha jatha, tabe to gaiva harinama sukhe aparadha hoive hatha. Then only I will be able to sing Harinam continuously. To conclude our time together, I want to talk about one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about, this is the final thing, because you know we spoke about how humility is so important. And if you really want to say that no, in my life I will not have humility, I can still practice devotional life and I can experience the higher states of ecstasy, or I can be a good devotee. Think again, because in Bhagavatam there is a verse which talks about the reason, the cause, the elongation of our material existence. Why our material existence is getting elongated? Why some people are not able to come out of the mires of material existence despite knowing that this is a temporary place, this is a dukkhalayam? Why they are not able to do? Very wonderful verse. This verse comes in the 5th canto Srimad Bhagavatam in the description between Jada Bharat and Rahugana. So the verse goes like this. Nahi adbhutam tvat charanam bhuja renubhir hatam haso bhaktir adhoksha mala Mohuartikada yasya samagamat chame dustarka mula pahata vivekaha. In this verse, there are 3 things which are mentioned, which is the reason for our elongation of material existence. The 3 very important things. First thing is dustarka mula. Dustarka is false arguments. When our opinion is not respected, when our opinion is not valued, when our opinion is not accepted, when it is rejected, naturally there is a big upheaval in the heart. There is a big turmoil. There is a big frustration which comes. Dustarka. And then people start shouting, start saying anything that comes to their mouth. Anything, there's no control over the tongue, whatever comes. Dustarka mula, false arguments. False argument is the first one. The second thing is pride, false pride. And the third thing is abhivekaha, the lack of discrimination. These 3 things are the cause for the elongation of our material existence. What this verse is telling, nahi adbhutam tat charanam bhujam renubhir. It is not at all wonderful that simply by being covered by the dust of your lotus feet, one immediately attains the platform of pure devotional service to Adhokshaja. How do we come out of this, these 3 things? Okay, there are 3 problems you are mentioning. How do we come out? The only way you can come out is by serving a Vaishnava properly, with the right heart. If you serve the Vaishnava, it is not done as a show. It is not done as a gimmick or something. Genuinely, if you serve, whoever it is, my goal, my life's goal is not only to serve some very senior devotee, exalted GVCs, they come, then only I'll serve. Other devotees, I don't care. No. Nahi adbhutam tvat charanam bhujam renubhir hatam haso bhakti adhokshaja amala. Just by serving, that attitude of serving has to be there. It is another Vaishnava who's chanting, let me serve him. It is not at all wonderful that simply by being covered by the dust of your lotus feet, one immediately attains the platform of pure devotional service to Adhokshaja, which is not available even to great demigods like Brahma. By associating with you just for a moment, I am now freed from all argument, false prestige and lack of discrimination. Dustarka mula apahata vivekaha. Dustarka is false arguments. The prestige, the false prestige is the pride part, and lack of discrimination is abhivekaha. I'll be free from this, which are the roots of entanglement in the material world. This is the word, which are the roots of entanglement. Now I am free from all these problems. Even if, there are people who are coming up to this process of devotion, they understand the importance of practicing devotional life. If they are not careful, if they don't get rid of this dustarka mula apahata vivekaha, then experiencing that transcendental bliss within the heart will not happen. And that is something which is throughout in Chaitanya Charitamrita demonstrated by every single devotee, every single one, free from this false arguments, free from this false prestige and the lack of discrimination. To conclude our time, last thing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he took sannyas, when he saw that people are not respecting him and they're not able to hear his instructions are not taken seriously, he took sannyas at the age of 24, having a young wife, an elderly dependent mother. Still he took up to this path of sannyas because this message of Krishna needs to be shared. He did that. The first thing that he wanted to do in his life was to go to Vrindavan, because that is what his cherished goal was. But then his mother told that if you go so far off, your elder brother has... By the way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before he took birth, he had a elder brother. And they were... Did he have any sisters? No sisters? 9 sisters. But they all died after birth. They were not there. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to take sannyas, his mother told that, please don't go so far off to Vrindavan, stay close by. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, I'll stay in your house. Said, no. Then what people will say? His mother, Sachi mother told, what people will say? You've taken sannyas and you're still staying in the house, stay very close by. So he decided to stay in Jagannath Puri. This is an example which Prabhupada illustrates. The purports of Chaitanya Charitamrita are amazing actually. Prabhupada is telling this thing that how in devotional life also, often our opinion may not be valued, may not be accepted, may not be taken further. But I should not feel dejected by that. I should see it as Lord's plan. When I have put forward this as a proposition and for some reasons it is not accepted, I should still be happy. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrates in his personal life. You see any place, when he meets Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sannyas. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya is a priest, grihastha. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is giving instruction to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is willing to listen to him. When he's saying, Arey, you are a Bala sannyas, you are a very young sannyas, how will you remain sannyas unless you hear about Vedantas? And he goes on to talk, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very humbly, yes, I'm a very young sannyas, I have no idea, and he listens. This is mode of humility. When he goes to Prakasananda Saraswati, Prakasananda Saraswati is telling that, he's sitting in that lower position and he's telling, I am a very low class sannyas, you are very high class sannyas. That humility touched the heart of Prakasananda Saraswati. When he goes to that place in Jagannath Puri where he has darshan, he doesn't go close to Jagannath, the deity of Jagannath in the sanctum sanctorum. He'll be far behind, standing behind that Garuda Stamba and having darshan. One day there was one village woman who came and stood on the shoulders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in so much of eagerness and ecstasy. She is seeing the Lord. Anybody had it been there, he would have been angry. Who the hell do you think you are? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant Govinda was there, and he started scolding this lady, saying that, you're an illiterate lady. Don't you know this is a sannyasi? Not just sannyasi, he is the Supreme Lord himself. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Arey, fool, why did you scold her? Didn't you see how much of eagerness she has? This is the mood of humility. This humility is something which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is demonstrating throughout in this pastimes. Not just Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all his associates, every single one of them. This is the mood that we have to inculcate. This Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's magnum opus called Chaitanya Charitamrita is available. We can take so many pastimes and relish. But if we forget the mood, what is the intent behind writing this? What is it that it is trying to tell us? And then we will just simply say, oh, very nice, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did this, that. That is all good. But if we are able to inculcate this in our life, we will genuinely experience that transcendental bliss. That is there. That is our birthright. We can experience that ecstasy, ashtavikara, this thing, whatever, that sweda, kampana, all those things are mentioned, it will come, provided I have that humility in life. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Yeah, on the chat. How do I go there? Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you please explain lack of discrimination that is mentioned in Bhagavatam? Okay, very nice question. Lack of discrimination is nothing but illusion. Illusion means accepting that which is not real or truth as real. Maya, the word Maya, Ma means na, yeah, that which is not, you accept that as truth. So the first illusion that we get into is that we are this body. And the second thing is we would like to continue in this body forever. So that is the biggest illusion. So that lack of discrimination and all our activities are based on this one thought that I want to make this body happy. And I go on doing these things, completely ignoring the needs of the spiritual being, the real me that is there. I've completely forgotten about that. So that is the lack of discrimination, and that comes by association of devotees, by reading the scriptures regularly, by chanting Hare Krishna. Then the intelligence becomes sharp, and I will discriminate, and I will know this is really beneficial for me. This is something which I should do, and this is something which is not good for me, and I will reject that. Does that help, Mataji? Hare Krishna. Any other questions, thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, humility. So there are some situations in which we actually forget the importance of the humility, and we act according to the time and circumstances. So how to overcome Prabhu?
That's why, I mean, this whole life is meant to prepare ourselves, right? This life is a preparation. By some causeless mercy of a pure devotee, we have been introduced to Krishna consciousness, the path of devotion, which is leading us to the highest destination. But to experience that real state of bliss, there are certain prerequisites, like we have certain do's and don'ts, right? Certain do's, like we follow the 4 regulative principles. Don'ts, like, we don't eat grains on Ekadashis. We fast on some special days. Like that, there is another significant do which is there, which is not directly spoken. Nobody takes a vow that I'll be humble throughout my life. I'll be practicing humility. But that is there even in the first thing that is mentioned in the items of knowledge by Krishna. Amanitvam adambitvam. Ahimsa shantirarjavam. Amanitvam is humility. Adambitvam is pridelessness. That is the bedrock of all the good qualities. If that intellectual knowledge also is not there, practicing that is, forget about it. Artificially nobody can imitate. Prabhu, मैं तो हूँ humble आदमी यहाँ पे. Humility doesn't come by just showing that externally. Humility is something which is cultivated within, where I understand my insignificant position, at the same time value the association, the value this wonderful gift that is given to me. The moment I lose value about the things that is given to me, I'll behave arrogantly, I'll behave proudly. Yes, I'm also a big guy. What is this? Actually, we are nothing. We have no qualification to get what we have gotten. We were rotting in some place. That thing we should never forget. If that thing is remembered before coming in touch with Krishna consciousness, how pitiable, how miserable my life was. I've been from drain. I have been put and removed and put in a very nice place, in a nice place which is dry and completely you're cleaned, and you're put there, and you forget about your position, past position, and you think you are a big guy now. The moment that thought comes, like as it is mentioned there, that lack of discrimination, false prestige, and false arguments. So the moment that happens, the lack of humility and that pride has come, you start arguing. You start finding faults. You start seeing only negative things. And very soon, before you realize, you're out of the moment. You're out, gone. Bhakti is over. So we should value this Krishna consciousness very, very much, very much. This is causeless mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We don't deserve this. That value, if we build in our life, this is not something ordinary, I will remain humble. If that doesn't come, then I just do anything that I like. No other question, we will stop here. Join us in the evening to hear more about the instrument of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the instrument that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to kill, to finish, to completely transform a demoniac person conditioned in this material world, forgetful about his relationship with the Lord? How can he become a devotee? What is that instrument that he has? And what is it that he has given just 8 instructions? What are those important instructions? That we will see in the evening. And tomorrow and day after tomorrow is Gaura Purnima. So fast for the whole day, we fast till sunset. But fasting is only meant to introspect these things that is happening in our life, and see how I can make some little progress, that little baby step. I should think to myself, okay, where I am. Nobody can tell anyone that, oh, externally everybody is putting tilak, kantimala and comes. And they say that we are also practicing, we are doing this thing. Internally what is going on, you only know and the Lord knows. So if one has to introspect and pray to the Lord, the most merciful incarnation. I didn't talk about the Parivasa Sutra, wonderful Parivasa Sutra of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it is mentioned how the goal of this whole reading about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime or Chaitanya Charitamrita is to fix him in our heart, to place him in our heart permanently. And he wants to do that. But there are anarthas which are there inside, which is acting as an obstacle between my heart and the Lord. How I can overcome those? If we overcome, then we will be able to get that. So we will see all this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanand.